racing.
Osborne's a guy that really likes to saw away at the wheel and really flick the car in and out of the turns. Watch the wheels change direction quick and then back. Quick corrections on that long snout on the Osborne car, trying to pick that air up off the ground and use it for downforce coming down the straightaway and spill it up over the top of the car. Osborne at turns 1 and 2, coming out hard.
This season, Mike, excuse me, was almost a comeback year for Lee Osborne. He became the all-star circuit of champions out in the mid-eastern part of the country, if you will, Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, where he won he won $10,000 as being their points champion for 1981. Lee Osborne
finished 17th here last year at Syracuse. There's a good look at the front-end design on Osborne's car without the use of a conventional front wing. Osborne at 33.2 seconds. That's going to be a close call whether or not he gets into the top 10.
Smokey Snellbaker now making his way onto the speedway, and here's a guy who figures to definitely be among our front runners and a real threat to win. You can see how unusual the wing on top of the car looks from this angle.
We saw that car earlier in the explanation piece on the new design, the new vanguard of thinking in aerodynamics and sprint car racing at 32.152 seconds for Smokey Snellbaker. That should put him comfortably in the top 20. Look at him kick the back of that car out in qualifying.
He's a guy who runs well on a hard, slick dirt racetrack like this one figures to become during the race. He won this race in 1979, the first upright sprint car to win here at Syracuse, and he won the Williams Grove Qualifier, one of the series of qualifying races. And matter of fact, Williams Grove is actually sponsoring his efforts here at Syracuse this weekend.
Smokey Snellbaker in the field, and we'll have a look at more qualifying when we come back to Syracuse, New York. Back to Syracuse, New York, and the Syracuse Super Nationals for dirt track sprint cars. As the cars are lined up for the feature event, let's take a further look at qualifying time trials. We're showing you just how tough it is to get around this 1-mile super speedway. The clock runs down to car number 91, Ed Thompson of Oswego, New York. He's driving his own machine with a 468 cubic inch power plant.
Well, this car, as you can see, is quite different in configuration and chassis style and design from the others we've been looking at. Something else, notice how dark it is. We'll get into that in a minute. This car here was designed to run on pavement, and you really have to give Ed Thompson the Perseverance Award. He shows up every year here at Syracuse in a race car not designed for dirt. He crashed the first year in 1978, or make that 79. In the last 2 seasons, he's had a 10th and 11th, Mike, in this pavement super modified.
These asphalt cars are much lower for running on a paved track, and they don't need near the suspension travel that a dirt track car needs. And you can see how he's really bouncing that car around the race course, trying to get it around the speedway smoothly.
It's in the very late afternoon, early evening hours at Syracuse, and darkness is setting in. The only light illuminating this racetrack is on the front stretch, but the promoters here and the drivers and crews have gotten together and decided, because of all the rain delays, they must go ahead with qualifying despite the fact that darkness is moving in. And incidentally, Steve Kinzer, to this point of the day, has now turned in the fastest time. Last year's winner is in at under 30 seconds and the only driver to do it.
Kinzer at 29.859 seconds. Earlier we saw Steve Smith run 30.177. So it now sits at Kinzer, Steve Smith, Danny Smith, and Jeff Swindell, with still several of the hot dogs to qualify. But as you can see, the Friday afternoon sunlight is really fading. It'll be tough to get around this track because it is lighted only on the front straightaway. As we watch the final laps of Ed Thompson.
Well, Thompson hangs right in there, Mike, and I tell you, it really is admirable to do that. And here's a guy who might be able to move into the top 5.
Doug Wolfgang of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, driving the Doug Howells machine. He finished in the top 10 here last year.
Well, Wolfgang is behind the wheel and on top of, if you will, a Trossel chassis, one of the most famous in all of sprint car racing. You see Wolfgang in total control of that car skating across this slick surface here at Syracuse. The car, you lose a little bit of the illusion of speed through the television cameras, but right now he's reaching about 130 to 135 miles an hour before he darts into the third turn. There he is between turns 3 and 4, and now setting up for the home stretch.
This car with conventional wing technology, the big 25 square foot wing with the side plates on top and a strut mounted wing up over the nose of the car. Ooh, squarely going into that corner. He loses a bit of time there.
If you've been a sprint car fan for the past couple of decades, you'll recognize the name of Doug Howells from deep in the Midwest. He's been around as a car owner and chief mechanic for quite some time, and his cars carried Don Mack, one of the few drivers from the upper part of the Midwest, South Dakota, I believe, to quite a number of victories when Don Mack was an active race driver. Incidentally, Doug's wife Joanne is also very much a part of this team.
Number 4 coming across, Doug Wolfgang, completing his time trial run, and that first lap was good enough for third fastest time of the day. Behind Steve Kinzer, the defending champion, and Steve Smith, Doug Wolfgang has posted third fast time, eclipsing Danny Smith's mark.
Wolfgang is a guy who has won the toast of the town, if you will, of open sprint car racing. He has won the race at Knoxville, Iowa, the first of the special invitationals, quasi-national championships, if you will, in sprint car racing.
This is Keith Kaufman. He is the man that sat on the pole here in 1980, 1 year ago, for the Syracuse Supernational, the Weichert's livestock machine. You see how upright the drivers sit in sharp contrast to other types of open